That's right, your railroads. You may not have given it much thought, but the railroads of America are a very important part of your everyday life. That's why this picture was made, to give you a review and survey of this great industry of yours, to let you see how it operates, what makes it tick, what are some of its problems. Here is a colossal job of transportation, a job that calls for the moving of an average of a ton of freight 12 miles every day of the year for every one of you. A job of carrying nearly 2 million passengers every day of the year. Hauling 500,000 express shipments every day. Transporting practically all the parcel post shipments for the nation. And more than 90% of all intercity letter mail. What a job they do. This job of keeping 250,000 miles of railroad free and clear for running operations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the days of the year in and year out, maintaining an even tempo of distribution with such precision and dependability that the American shipper and traveler takes this daily marvel of transportation as a matter of course. How do they do it? There is one quick answer to that question. It is the answer of men, of tools, and of teamwork. Teamwork between railroads and shippers in the efficient use of railroad tools, the cars and engines, the tracks and terminals, the stations and shops, and all the plant and facilities provided for the big job of railroad transport. Let's have a look at some of these tools. These are the tools provided by the savings of millions of people throughout the length and breadth of the land. More than $20,000 invested in tools and equipment for every man working in the great railroad industry of America. It is this investment by Mr. and Mrs. America that makes possible the efficient transportation that this nation enjoys today. It is this investment that makes possible America's low transportation costs. It is this investment that makes possible American railroad wages, the best railroad wages in the world today. The unbeatable combination of tools, training, and teamwork in operation 24 hours a day. This is what sums up the story of how the tremendous railroad job is done. The job of keeping the lifeblood of commerce and travel flowing smoothly throughout every part of our land. Let's see just how that has worked out. Way back in 1921, right after the First World War, the wage rates paid by the railroads averaged 61 cents per hour. At the same time, the index of the cost of materials and supplies was 132. Back in 1921, the railroads got an average revenue of more than 1.25 cents for hauling a ton of freight 1 mile. And the average revenue for carrying a passenger a mile was more than 3 cents. Now look what has happened since 1921. At the end of 1948, the average rate of wages paid on the railroads was $1.38 per hour. And the index of the cost of materials and supplies which the railroads must buy, 280. But with wages and the price of materials and supplies more than double what they were in 1921, the average revenue received by the railroads for hauling a ton of freight a mile in 1948 was no higher than in 1921. And the revenue for carrying a passenger a mile was well below what it was in 1921. In fact, railroad freight rates since the Second World War have been lower in comparison with other prices and lower in relation to the value of the commodities hauled than they were before the war or at any time since the Interstate Commerce Commission began to compile such figures. And during the same period, there have been immense gains in the basic factors of dependability, safety, comfort, and speed in railway service. These gains are due in large part to the better tools which enable railroad men to do a better job. With all railroaders working together, railroad plant takes on vital meaning and purpose in the life of American economy and the well-being of the nation. But railroads do not exist of, for, and by themselves. They are part of our American heritage, our American life and way of doing things. In the cross-currents of world history, what vital force was it that has blessed this land with the highest living standards the world has ever known? Was it the generous bounty of nature, endowing us with untold wealth in the form of natural resources and raw materials? Was it the hardihood, the ingenuity and industry of a people who fought their way westward from the Atlantic seaboard and, against almost insurmountable odds, built a nation that spans a great continent? This is only part of the answer. Part of it is found in the tenets of government, framed in the two documents America holds most dear: the Declaration of '76 and the Constitution of the United States. Set forth in these great documents, in words that have become the ideal of government for all freedom-loving peoples, are the guarantees of individual rights and opportunities, the establishment of a system of government and a way of life that stimulated individual effort and encouraged and rewarded initiative, ability, and enterprise. How do the railroads of America fit into that pattern? The development of the railroad industry was the keystone in the growing structure of this country as a nation, day by day helping to build up and enrich the system of individual liberty and opportunity that is the American way of life. The process of American history was such that the growth and development of America as a nation ran parallel to the growth and development of its railroads, each dependent on the other, each drawing strength from the other. Rich farm areas, but rich in potential only, remained idle and therefore worthless until American enterprise and American willingness to put money to work laid the rails which turned that great potential into fruitful reality. Great mineral areas, rich in ores and materials. Great forest areas, which the country needed for its growth, followed a like pattern of development. Low-cost, dependable, year-round mass transportation provided by your railroads made it possible for America's productive energies to find useful development and expansion, gave worth and economic value to new lands whose products were thus made available to our nation and the world. Industry and agriculture sprang into vigorous new life as the spreading network of rails gave outlets for their products. Great cities and industries followed the rails everywhere in the new and growing nation. Today, as always, your railroads carry anything for anybody, everything for everybody, any quantity, in all weather and all seasons of the year, from every shipping point to every consuming point. Truly America's common carrier, offering efficient, economical service upon which a unified and productive nation can always rely, and upon which its vigor and very life depend. Railroads, privately owned and entirely self-supporting, created by the pooled savings of millions of our citizens, with a money investment of $29 billion over a period of more than a century, paying hundreds of millions yearly in taxes for the support of schools, police and fire protection, and other services of government and the community. In the 20 years before the recent World War, from about 1920 to 1940, our government spent more on transportation facilities used by carriers competing with the railroads than the total amount which has been invested in railroads throughout their entire existence. More than $40 billion spent on roads and streets. Almost $2 billion for inland waterways. Almost $500 million for airports and airways. Altogether in those 20 years, the government spent on facilities to be used by carriers which compete with the railroads almost 3 times as much as the total investment in the past century for the track and roadway of the privately owned railroads. Yet, when the nation faced the supreme test of war, it was the railroads and railroaders who were called upon to bear the brunt of the crucial transportation problem, transporting more than 90% of all war freight, more than 97% of all organized military travel, the The immense scope of that assignment and the great efforts put into it by all railroads and railroaders is a story too familiar to need telling again. In those trying days, the railroad's main concern was to keep men and material rolling, to shorten the timetable to victory. During those years, it was not possible to make normal replacement of plant and equipment. The cost of materials, wages, taxes, and operating expenses in general had gone up during and since the war far more than railroad rate increases. Most people realize that business cannot be run successfully with a return on the money invested in it of less than 6%. Now let's see what the rate of return on the net investment in railroads has been. We're starting with the period right after the First World War. The return averaged in the 5 years 1921-25 a little more than 4%. In the boom years of 1926-1930, it approached but did not reach 5%. In the Depression decade of the 1930s, it dropped to the neighborhood of 2.5%. Even in the war years, when railroads hauled their heaviest traffic and rendered their greatest service, the rate of return averaged less than 5%. And in the 3 years since the war, while handling the heaviest peacetime traffic on record, the industry averaged less than 3% return in 1946, less than 3.5% in 1947, and less than 4.5% in 1948. Taking the average for the past 28 years, the rate of return on the money invested in railroads and subject to all the risks of business has been only about 3 2/3%. That's not much more than is earned on United States bonds, the most nearly riskless investment on earth. And it is a lot less than is earned on the money invested in most other industries. Today, in this post-war period, the railroads fully realize the imperative need to keep their plant and rolling stock up to date, completely adequate and efficient. The country needs and must have that kind of railroad system if it is to remain strong, prosperous, and secure. That requires adequate rail earnings, because it is only earnings or the prospect of earnings that will induce people to continue to invest their money in railroads. The years during and since the war have seen marked increases in the larger items of railroad costs. The largest item, more than half of all costs, is wages. In these years, the average level of wage rates has gone up 89%. The second largest item is the purchase of materials, supplies, and fuel, and the level of their prices has gone up an average of 123%. The next largest item is taxes, and since 1939, railroad taxes have increased 184%. Now let's look at the other side of the picture. During the same years, 1939 through 1948, freight rates, as measured by the average revenue the railroads receive for hauling a ton of freight 1 mile, have gone up only 28%. And the average revenue the railroads get for carrying a passenger a mile has increased only 28.5%. The result? During and since the war, the American railroads have handled the greatest volume of business in their history, have rendered their greatest service, and taken in their largest revenue. Yet the return on railroad investment is less than it was 20 years ago, when the volume of railroad traffic was only about 2/3 what it is today. This, then, is the heart of the problem that faces you and your railroad. How to make the 6% earnings the railroads need to support their credit so as to enable them to secure the money necessary for the modernization and expansion program vital to the continued welfare of the country. The railroad organization from top to bottom is working as a team to improve efficiency and get maximum service output at the lowest unit production cost. How do adequate railroad earnings contribute to that common goal? Millions of dollars spent for new equipment, thousands of new freight cars already delivered and in daily service throughout the country, and thousands more on order. Thousands of new passenger cars delivered or being built, all of the most modern design and construction. New locomotives, powerful steam engines for heavy-duty, long-haul freight and passenger service. Modern electric locomotives and diesel, many already in service, others on order and on the way. Improved roadbed to provide greater safety and higher speed. Fast, dependable, scheduled freight trains running at what used to be looked upon as passenger train speed. Scores of other improvements in facilities and service. Improvements in which, over the past quarter of a century, the railroads have invested more than twice as much as they have paid out in dividends. Improvements which offer for the comfort and convenience of the American people the best that American engineering skill can devise. For on the railroads, research and experimental work go on without end, trying and testing new methods and devices for better service. Surveys of new trends and improvements in railroad transportation, carried out by the railroads individually and also collectively through the Association of American Railroads, the mutual agency of the railroads for the improvement of all railroads. There is something about railroads and railroaders that has always held the genuine and friendly interest and respect of the American people. It grows out of the romance and glamour that are part of the railroad tradition, the disciplined strength and power of locomotives, the pleasant excitement, the sense of adventure inspired by the sound of a train whistle in the distance. To the people of America, a good railroader has always meant a worker of exceptional skill, training, and devotion to duty. Good workers deserve good tools. In terms of railroad operation, this means adequate up-to-date tracks and shops, locomotives and cars, and other equipment worthy of their skill. To continue to supply such tools and equipment in ever-increasing numbers, the railroads must have the money to buy and install them. And that, in the final analysis, must depend on the railroad's ability to earn a fair rate of return on money invested in them. With that sort of earnings, you can look forward with confidence to yet better and more efficient railroads in the future. Railroads which can provide for you faster, more convenient, more comfortable passenger service, and speedier, more dependable, more flexible freight service. And railroads which can provide this better service at the lowest possible cost, because skilled men and efficient management will have the better tools which can come only with adequate earnings. Yes, with adequate earnings, you can look forward with confidence to a clear track ahead for industry, for agriculture, for commerce, for you and your nation.
Well, that's my station. Maybe you've seen it before. It's pretty much like yours, I guess. Maybe not as big, but all in all, it's the... Uh-oh, that's me. There with a customer. Suppose you're wondering why they picked me to be a movie. I'm no actor, that's for sure. Well, the thing is, this picture's not about me. It's about this, Philcheck service. The way we handle Philcheck here, what we think about it, how it pays off. Now, don't get the idea we think our methods are perfect. Maybe yours are better. But if I give you my ideas and you give me yours, maybe between us we'll both do better with Philcheck. You've got one of these, and I guess you're pretty proud of it, just like we are. But we're kidding ourselves if we think this thing alone puts anything here in the cash register. To keep this loaded, we figure we've got to make this work. And here's how we do it. See what you think. Let's take a customer, any customer, just a guy who happens to need some gas and happens to pass our station. So he comes in. And let's say he doesn't know anything about Philcheck service. He doesn't know much about his car even, but he's interested in it. It represents a lot of money to him, and he wants anybody who touches it to be interested in it too. So we act interested. And that's not hard because that car means dough to us. We figure that showing appreciation for a man's business is the start of Philcheck service. Now, you know as well as I do that that customer doesn't come in just for gas. Maybe he thinks he does. But what he really comes in for is everything he needs to keep that car running right for a few hundred more miles. So we go right to work to see what those needs are, because we don't want to pass up any sales. Well, we get under the hood, always. And let's say when we check the oil, we find it's a couple of quarts low. But we don't stop with that kind of a sale. We want a big sale. So we check to find out how far that oil's been driven. Naturally, if it's been in there for 1,000 miles or better, we've got a mighty good chance to pick off a real job. So let's say we've sold an oil change, which means he has to leave his car with us. And that means we get to put our best little old salesman to work. You know what I mean, don't you? That's right, that Philcheck work order. That thing can bring in plenty of cash, believe me. Oh, and incidentally, we get that name spelled right. The customer's fussy about that, and we'll need the right name and address later. Chances are pretty good if he needs an oil change, he needs lubrication too. And as long as he's leaving his car anyway, he'd just as soon get everything done at once. Now, I've heard dealers complain it takes time to fill out this work order. Sure it does. That's fine, because during that time, that guy's thinking about everything his car needs and building up his order with us to help remind him. Oh, yeah, and we make a big point out of all the little extra services he's going to get. Things that make him sure he's getting more than just a grease job. When he leaves, he's sold on us, he's sold on Philcheck. So far, so good. But we got to keep him sold. We've got to deliver the job when it's promised. So we file the order in our job organizer right away. Then it's on the schedule. No mix-ups, no overloading the service department. The lube man knows what to do and when. It's all written out. He can't go wrong. By the way, when the job's finished, that work order's brought in and filed so that I can check it over and get the right price on it before the customer comes in. Takes a couple of minutes, but saves a lot of trouble. Anyhow, let's get back to doing a Philcheck service job. We want to do it right, not because we're nice guys, but because we make more money that way. We keep our customers. We figure we might not get repeat business on ordinary grease jobs, but factory-specified lubrication, that's something else again. I don't have to tell you how to do a lube job, but I heard something the other day that made me think. Did you know that on all the different makes and models of cars in the last 10 years, there's better than 18,000 lubrication points? And when you figure all the types and grades of lubricant, there's more than 21,000 different things a lube man should know. Einstein himself couldn't remember all that, but we don't need to. A lot of cars we know by heart, but if on any car there's any doubt we might have missed some point, then we check. Whatever we need to know is right there in our Philcheck guide. It just makes sense to us to protect ourselves by doing a good job. Doesn't take any longer, but take it from me, it prevents kickbacks. I guess we use that guide every day. Naturally, all the time we're doing a job, we're checking for trouble spots on the car. Not just tires, but everything under the hood. We're doing a little more than the customer asked for, but we're doing it to get those extra sales. You'd be surprised how many batteries and spark plugs and fan belts and so on we sell just by finding out when they're beginning to go bad. We find something a little wrong, we make a note on the work order. It may not mean a sale this time, but it lays the groundwork for later. And what's more, it lets the customer know we really did go over his car from one end to the other. Yeah, that car's a gold mine if you work it right. But we figure we've got to look for that gold. We got to find those places that need service or repairs or replacements. Then the mystic sticker, to help us sell the customer his next Philcheck job. It's a reminder to him and to us not to neglect this car. Then we're almost through, but not quite. There's a few more little extras that take, a couple of minutes maybe, but as far as the customer's concerned, they mean the difference between a grease job and real Philcheck service. Matter of fact, I got one customer whose main reason for coming to us is that we clean out his ashtrays. $200 a year he spends here because he's seen us do that. Well, anyhow, we're finished up now. We've done a good job. We know it, but we got to make the customer know it. What we've got to do is sell him again on the job he's paying for. And we do it by going over the work order with him, point by point. We tell him about all we did for his car. Let him know he's got nothing to worry about till it's time for the next Philcheck job, which is what we're after. We mentioned that low battery cell. There's no sale now, but we've got him thinking about his battery. And about us. And then to clinch the good impression we've made, we hand him his folded copy of the work order. Everything's down on paper, and he's got an ironclad guarantee. Take it from me, that means plenty to any customer. Then I always, and I mean always, go out to the car with the customer. It's another little way of showing I appreciate his business and that I'm kind of proud of the good job we did on his car. I show him the mystic sticker and tell him to keep an eye on it. Come back for an oil change and lubrication after 1,000 miles. Not that he will keep an eye on it, but at the moment he figures he will, and that's what we want. We want him to leave thinking he got more than his money's worth, thinking he's going to come back. But we know, you and I, that he's got an awful short memory. We just naturally can't depend on him to come in and ask for his next Philcheck job. If we do, we'd probably starve to death. We have to keep after him, starting right now. The way we do it is to get all the information off the work order and put it on his own record card. And then, to remind ourselves, to remind him, we put a blue tab on the card, on the date 30 days ahead. At the end of that time, if he hasn't been in, we send him a postcard to jog him up. Let Uncle Sam help us with our selling. And we put a red tab on the record card for 1 week ahead. If he doesn't come in during that week, we shoot him another postcard. We make a note of it on his record and give him 10 days more. Yeah, it's paperwork, but take it from me, it pays off. And if he still doesn't come through, then we get in touch with him personally. I call him on the phone or maybe even drop around to see him. That generally gets the job done. Now, I know some guys say a customer doesn't like to be hounded. Well, you take it from me, he loves it. Makes him feel important. Makes him feel his business is appreciated. And the only way I know to get business is to ask for it. Even after a guy's a regular customer for gas, we still send him postcards. Sure, we remind him on the spot when he's ready for Philcheck service, but those postcards build up a habit. He gets to depend on us to do his thinking for him. He trusts us to remember everything about his car. And when a customer trusts you that much, brother, you've got some real steady income. Well, we're back where we started. What I've been trying to say is that to us, Philcheck service just means treating this guy right, the way we'd like to be treated if we were in his shoes. Because after all, this guy is our bread and butter. Well, that's all. Except, like I say, I'd like to hear your ideas on Philcheck. As I see it, you and I are in this thing together. And take it from me, we're both going to make money just as long as we both make this mean business.
Invited to one of our family arguments. It's open season on Father's. Of course, I don't expect everyone to know about family arguments, unless you happen to have a family. Last month, it was a first stove. Last year, wall-to-wall carpeting. And with Junior in school and that daughter of mine, but they're not gonna win today. I'm just not gonna give in. Now, you listen to how I handled it. Jezebel is good enough. She's got 4 wheels, a roof over her head, and... Well, anyway, she's got a nice lived-in quality about her. Of course, they're kids. But Martha's old reliable herself. So I say to her, honey, you've got the common sense in this family. Now tell me, what do you think? And she answers...
The 1954 models are out.
Uh-oh. Here comes the real pressure artist. She'll roll her eyes and say, but Daddy, dear, or maybe even worse. And there's the reserve team calling out signals against the meanest man in the world. But I'm not gonna give in easy. J.P. Mudrock has a mind of his own. Up until now, my baby thought I was a reasonable father. Oh, what's a fella gonna do? So I consented to look at new cars. I had a cute little gag all lined up. Pulled the wallet out of my pocket with a chain on it. The last time I bought a car, the character that waited on me, oh, wow. He wasn't really that bad. He just looked that way to me. But that sort couldn't work for a reliable dealer. Well, I feel better already. He's a good salesman. Tells you what you want to know about a car, and then lets you make up your own mind. That's what I like. Uh-oh. My buttons and bows department. That girl of mine likes sporty jobs, just like her old dad, always thinking of me. Or is she?
I dreamed I went riding in my very favorite convertible with my very favorite boyfriend.
Well, you can't stop a girl from dreaming. Now, my boy is different. He knows his old dad needs room for sample cases and for fishing trips. You can bet that's why he's sitting in that station wagon. He's thinking of the old man, all right.
I dreamed I borrowed Pop's station wagon for the weekend, and we loaded the rear up for Twin Pines, and it still left us room to pick up Peggy and Jill for the dance. Boy, was it ever keen.
That's my boy. Before they get sold on a model that isn't just right for all of us, maybe I better talk to the boss. Even when I buy a suit for myself, well, if Martha isn't happy, neither am I. She knows what's best for our family. So I tell my friend, if he can satisfy the missus, then he's sold the mud rocks. What I don't tell him is that she isn't easy to satisfy. As far as appearance is concerned, we all agree with Sister. It's love at first sight. And you couldn't go wrong on any model we saw. But Mother represents all the family, and she's a stickler when she makes up her mind. And I think she's decided what model I think is best. And now it's up to the salesman to prove that she's right. Right off the bat, he starts talking safety for the family. And one of the important features for safety is that in this car you can see everything. He proves you can. Then he starts telling us about some of the car's exclusive construction features. That body is really built for safety. Well, the missus can see at a glance he's right. But is she satisfied yet? Not my girl. She's on the inside now, looking at the seats like she was buying a living room sofa. The material's got to hit her eye. It's got to be strong and durable and the latest. And underneath it has to have quality too. Foam rubber and good spring construction. Then she stretches out to see if there's legroom. As for me, if I'm buying a new car, I want one of those gimmicks that, well, you know, it sort of goes under and over and, well, you know. I take a scientific view. And so I asked the salesman what kind of gadgets go with this car. He doesn't like the word gadgets. He says in any car I buy, I'll want convenience. For instance, this door lock is a safety convenience. Lock the door with a button, no fumbling for the keys. There's convenience, a dome light that turns on from the front or back seat. And I'll want automatic transmission and power steering. Now the salesman says I can have them on this car if I want them. If I want them. That's a laugh. Then he asked me if I've seen automatic window lifts. Sure, my boss has them on his limousine. But he doesn't have a push-button seat adjuster. I don't let the salesman know what I'm thinking, but I'm saying to myself, oh, wait a second, Mudrock. You're the guy with the chain on his wallet. What are you getting into? But then I remember, it doesn't have to be an expensive car. It should just have the best features of an expensive car. That's what to look for when you're buying a car scientifically. I want a car that's durable. The way to be sure of this is to buy a name with a long-range reputation. That's how to get top dollar when you're ready to sell or trade. The salesman tells us he's talked enough about the car's safety, performance, and economy. The beauty he doesn't mention because he sees we're still taking it in. He wants to stop telling and start proving.
You should have a demonstration ride.
I'm so excited I don't even recognize my own voice when I say,
Yes. Good. We'll go this way.
the salesman said the car you want should have an all-weather ignition system. All I wanted was to get my hands on that wheel. But he said, just sit and relax. Listen to the engine purr. How can I hear it when my heart won't stop pounding? But it's there because we're moving. My friend doesn't even have to mention how this new car handles. Now I get my chance behind the wheel. Talk about excitement. I took it up hills that I used to crawl up. I always wanted a car that would go up hills as easy as it comes down. Now is when I feel like a captain of a ship. Real control. Talk about getaway. This is without even trying. And this extra power will sure come in handy for passing other cars on the road. Real reserve power when I need it. All of a sudden, a crazy driver appears. I stop on a dime. Whew, what brakes? For a second, I thought my heart stopped. Even then, I couldn't hear the motor. One thing they kid me about is my parking. But if it's this easy to turn the wheel, just wait until I get a tight spot. I'll show them. This is it. How do I know? The tough guy, the bear in the family with a lock on his wallet? Well, when J.P. Mudrock hears music, then I know this is it. Well, the story's really over. I'm sold. I'd never buy anything unless I was completely satisfied. Being a scientific fellow, I got a fair trade and reasonable payments. Of course, we started by going to a reputable dealer, and he satisfied us. It's these things that give you confidence, make you know you're buying the right car from the right people. Of course, my wife kept saying the old car had 4 wheels, a roof, and a nice lived-in quality. But I convinced her that our new one would add just the touch we needed for the front of our house. But as long as you asked my advice on how to buy a car, I'd say, don't do anything. Not until you hear music.
Hey, Bergen, look, Guardian Maintenance. That's what we're on the radio for.
That's right, Charlie.
Works both ways. What's that mean, Bergen?
Picture will tell us now. If you just,
Shh, quiet, Bergen. This is the important stuff. Cast, Edgar Bergen, Jim Backus, Dabbs Greer, Robert... Hey, Bergen, what is this?
Yeah, well, just a minute. That okay?
Yeah. Just you wait a minute. Now, that's okay.
Oh, I see. Hey, fellas, it's almost time.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our show.
To the Nut and Bolt show, what? And I'm the Bolt.
What, Charlie?
What are you kicking about? I gave you top billing, Nutsy.
All right. Never mind the wisecracks. Now we're working for General Motors.
General Motors? Yeah. You mean we're drafted? Well, I was expecting it. But you, I never thought they'd go so far back for retreads.
Now, wait a minute. I'm still a young fella.
Yeah?
Yes. That girl down there smiled at me.
Say, she's cute.
Yes, she is. That's the kind of a girl I'd like to marry.
Marry?
Yes.
Aren't you buying a saddle after the horse is in the glue factory?
Now, here's Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy, brought to you by your Chevrolet car and truck, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, Buick, Cadillac, and GMC truck dealer.
Bergen, let's go fishing.
No, Charlie. Today our car gets its servicing.
Oh, it can wait.
No. There's the right way and the wrong way to do things. Just like the Three Little Pigs. Remember the first...
Edgar and Charlie go on transcriptions that play all over the country.
And the wolf said, I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in.
I think I'll blow, too.
These popular radio spots work for you. People hear them in their homes.
Yes, but the third little pig was protected because he planned ahead, just like we protect our car by giving it guardian maintenance service.
People hear them over car radios.
He fell down the chimney into the kettle of boiling water. Do you get the moral?
Sure. Wolfing around will get you in hot water.
Your radio commercials featuring Edgar Bergen, Bob and Ray, and the Answer Man. Magazine and newspaper advertising and promotional materials all help bring people into GM dealerships all over America. To places like GM dealer Dave Grant's. While we're here, let's peek in on Dave. Our friend doesn't know it yet, but a little later, in fact, this very day, he is going to come in contact with one of his customers in a way that will, well, we'll soon see. This is the customer, Fred Harris. Nice home, nice car. And he lives in a world that seems bent on making things as easy and pleasant for him as possible. And why not? Fred is a customer. That makes him a pretty important guy. He's a man who buys and pays for things. People want his business. They cater to him to get it. Fred's in business too, the home appliance business. One reason he's so successful, he gives his customers the same lavish service he's used to wherever he trades. And if there is one business, as much as any other, that has set a high standard of service, it is the automobile business. Maybe not every individual dealer meets that standard, but customers have long since learned that if one won't, another will. Take the people who sold Fred his car. They seem to want his business. Not just his new car business, service business. In fact, he's on his way right now to an appointment to have his car serviced. There he goes, happily on his way to his GM dealers for his prompt, friendly guardian maintenance service.
Well, I'll have to look that up. Just a minute. Hey, Phillips. The car Oh, it's gone. I forgot that thing.
Hey,
Yes, sir?
I brought my car in here.
Yeah, I'll be with you in just a minute. Hello. Yeah. Uh-huh. No. Well, all I can tell you is you'll have to bring it over. Mm-hmm. No. We used to do that, but we don't anymore. Uh-uh. Well, if I got a driver around here who isn't busy, I will, but... Okay. Yes, sir?
Well, I have an appointment. I brought my car in here. I telephoned, and I said to them...
I'll be right with you. Just a minute.
But you're, Oh.
I know what you're trying to say.
Listen, I have a car here, and I have an appointment, and, over there, Mac.
It won't work on this model. It's hard.
Why, sure. Bring it in any time, yeah.
Now, look, I don't mean to be tough, but I just want you to know that...
Here you are.
Yeah.
And I wanted to... Now, look.
I called for an appointment. See, I know, but I came in here. I know. That's perfectly all right. I'm a pretty reasonable...
Holy mackerel. Where did you get that thing? Come on.
Now, wait a minute, will you... Will you...
You the boss?
Yes? What can I do for you?
Your service department. You can stick it right back in the dark ages where it belongs.
What do you mean?
Well, I came in here. I had an appointment. That was 20 minutes ago, and they haven't gotten around to my car yet.
Well, I can't understand that. There must be some mistake.
You bet there is, and I made it coming here. You're always talking about your quality service on the radio and in the newspaper ads, but try and get some of it.
Well, I'll call our service manager. Get me Ben, please.
The only time you people listen to me is when it's new car time. Believe me, then you're really interested. But in the meantime, oh, the heck with the customer. And the next time you know what you can do with your new cars, too.
I gotta catch him.
The gas station I go to may not have the fancy tools you do, but they sure move a lot faster.
Yeah, but we take our time and we do the job right. Now, you won't get any better service no matter where you go.
What's the trouble, Ben? What held him up?
Smitty goofed again. He thought it was the ignition system, and it turns out to be the carburetor.
No, great.
What is this? You say it's a $200 repair bill, and now you say you don't extend credit. How many people can put out 200 clamps just like that?
Sorry, I don't make the rules. You know, sometimes it just seems like the bottom falls out of everything. This used car inventory's got to wait, Angie. I got other things on my mind right now. Say, you don't happen to remember where I put that last business builder, do you? Came in about a week ago.
Did you look in the lower drawer?
There it is.
Dave realizes he has to do something drastic. He isn't sure just what, but he starts looking.
Oh, I'm going to be out for a while, Angie. I'm going out to Goodman Motors. If you want me, I'll be with Bill Goodman.
Glad to have you. Look around, Dave. Nothing I have here is patented.
I feel nervy coming over to steal your ideas.
As far as I'm concerned, ideas are public domain. They have no value in themselves. Any idea or recommendation from your division isn't worth a nickel if you just put it in the files. You got to put it into practice.
Guess that's right.
Well, sometimes we're a little slow waking up to the fact. I know I was. I used to think this business started and ended right here with new cars and trucks. Service, oh, sure, we had it out back. And I've got to admit, pretty nearly out of mine. But believe me, Dave, I've been converted. Sure, I want to sell cars and trucks. And I want to get more repeat buyers, the same as everybody. But you just don't build that kind of business on front office deals alone. You build it on service. And I do mean guardian maintenance service.
What a sweet setup.
Thanks. You know, Dave, I've had people ask me, just what is this Guardian maintenance anyway? I tell them, it's professional automotive service by trained men using the best tools and equipment. Men who care that a job is done right. I tell them it's selling the customer only what he needs. It's giving quality service for a price that's right. I tell them Guardian maintenance is partly preventive maintenance, stopping trouble before it starts. Sure, we do all the necessary repairs. That's our bread and butter.
That's for sure.
You know how we get people in here for Guardian maintenance? We tie into the national campaign by running our own ads in newspapers and on the radio.
Local advertising, huh?
Of course. Dave, everything I've been saying leads right back to the customer. In my philosophy, and in the Guardian maintenance philosophy, the customer is the most important person in the automobile business. Now, that attitude has to start right at the top. It has to go down through the whole organization, clear to the man who sweeps out. Now, you know yourself, the customer's business is our life's blood. So it's up to us to take care of him, promptly, so completely, so fairly. We have to keep him so happy he'll keep coming back. You just keep your eye on that order desk for a while, you'll see what I mean.
So I have it, Mr. Matson. 8:30 Tuesday morning. I'll be watching for you. Thank you, sir. Bye.
Well, hello, Mrs. Becker. How are you?
I'm fine, but my car's acting funny. I wonder if I could have Whitey look at it for me.
Well, I'm sure he can. Where is your car?
It's just outside.
Well, he'll be right out.
Thank you.
Whitey's one of our servicemen. Mrs. Becker wants to talk right to him because she thinks he knows more about her car than anybody in the world. He's nice to her. That's the way we build personalized service. As far as Mrs. Beckett is concerned, Whitey Brokowski is Goodman Motors. And we like it that way.
You know, there's one thing.
Yeah?
You mean you pull a man off of one job to have him start a new one?
Long enough to say a few words to Mrs. Beckett, then Whitey will get back to his other job. Now there's a vital part of Guardian maintenance, the quick service department. There are 3 servicemen working on the same car. Boys are taught to work as a team. Each stall is equipped for quick service, and in addition, each serviceman brings along his own portable toolbox. Oh, I don't say that quick service is a cure-all, but I know it sure helped me. Now, customers like it. They know they can come here and get service fast.
You can take your service department and you can stick it right back in the dark ages where it belongs.
The gas station I go to may not have all the fancy tools you do, but they sure move faster.
How do your men like this hurry-up stuff?
Well, they like it. The more cars and trucks they service, the more they make. The more they service, the happier I am. And I know it makes the customers happy. This way. Now, there's something I suppose you do. One of our new car salesmen explaining the owner protection plan to a new customer. See, we want that lady to start thinking about Guardian maintenance and us before she ever gets out the door with her new car. That plan does it. It's our strongest link with the new customer. Oh, hello, Mr. Johnson. They treating you right?
Yes, sir. I'm in for my first checkup.
Oh, how's the new car doing?
Fine. And I want to see it stays that way.
Good. We'll help you keep it that way. Oh, excuse me. Sure. Oh, glad to do it. There. Anytime they're not treating you right, you let me know, huh?
Credit?
Sure.
Do you do much of that?
All we can. Credit brings in a lot of new customers. That man's in for a complete engine overhaul. We got the job only because we could offer him time to pay. Come with me. I want to show you our latest edition.
How long have you had a body shop?
Not long enough. That's not all. Look over there.
Spray booth, too.
Wish we'd put them both in long before we did. Factories are building more and more quality into cars and trucks, but we're still going to have accidents. And with the ever-increasing number of cars and trucks, there's not only the need, but ever-increasing profit potential in a body shop. Well, let's go back. I don't know about you, Dave, but it used to be I couldn't be pried loose from that office of mine. Now I spend as much time as I can out here in the service department. Men like to see the boss moving around.
Yeah, I noticed so do the customers.
I think we're making the most efficient use of our space and manpower, and we've got good supervision on the quality and flow of work. We're meeting competition in time and prices, and we're making a profit. But the most important thing of all right now, we're making friends and building customers. We're cementing owner relations. Don't ever forget, Dave, when we take care of the customers will take care of us. Guardian maintenance works both ways.
Clear enough when you see it.
Well, I've shown you all my trade secrets. When can I come over and steal some of yours?
Give me about 6 months. I'll be happy to show you everything.
Back in his own place, during those 6 months, Dave Grant is a man with a firm purpose and goal in mind. He and his field service rep plan a new workflow of service. To the GM Training Center, he sends more of his people. His servicemen to learn the latest service techniques. His service management people to attend the Service Management Development Program. And his new car salesman to the Sales Manpower Development Program to review time-tested selling methods. He studies time-saving tools and equipment with the help of his field service rep. The service manager trains the first team of servicemen to work together in a quick service operation. He plans and schedules his own local newspaper and radio advertising. He directs the equipping and dressing of his shop so that it shouts Guardian maintenance to everyone who enters and invites each customer to relax in comfort as well as confidence. He hits hard on the importance of the owner protection plan, of impressing every new car buyer with its benefits. He establishes credit for the convenience of his customers. In the following weeks, a new spirit spreads throughout the entire dealership. The pride that Dave Grant feels is shared by every employee. Then, at an evening meeting in the shop, he gets the whole staff together, servicemen and salesmen, and points out how every one of them can make more money with Guardian maintenance, and the part each has to play to make it work. It's only human nature to be proud to be a part of an organization that has recognizable purpose and direction. That Dave Grant's place now has. And it builds strong new enthusiasm in new and used car sales. Yet, despite his elation, something keeps bothering him.
The only time you guys are interested in me is new car time.
Can it be? Yes, it's the memory of Fred Harris, the customer that got away. Dave Grant wants that customer back. Maybe Jones, the man who sold Harris's car, is the one to do it. Jones is all for it. A happy service customer is a potential new car buyer. Jones goes to work on it. And sure enough, one day...
Hello, Mr. Bergen. Why, Mortimer Snerd, where are you going?
I'm taking my car in for its reservation.
Reservation?
No. It's preservation. No. It's custodial protection.
You mean it's Guardian maintenance?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's what all GM car and truck owners do. That's very smart of you, Mortimer.
Well, of course. What do you think I am? A dummy?
Let's go. Well, Mr. Harris, how are you today, sir?
I'm fine.
Good. This wonderful weather we're having.
It certainly is.
Now, Mr. Harris, the service that you discussed with Jones on the telephone, that's what you want.
That's what I want, yeah.
Have you out of here in no time, sir. No time.
How do you do? I'm glad you fellas got me back. For a minute, I thought I was in the wrong place.
Well, it was a little wrong a while back, but I think we've smartened up.
Well, maybe I have, too, like Mortimer Snurd says. What do you think I am? Some sort of a dummy or something?
Did you hear that, Mr. Bergen? What? Somebody's stealing our stuff.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that he's quoting a very intelligent fellow.
No. Hey, who's that?
Who's what?
He's been sitting out there watching us the whole time.
He has a right to. Guardian Maintenance is his baby. That's Bob Phillips, the Cadillac's general service manager.
It is?
Thank you, Edgar. And Mortimer. You know, watching this film has been a very enjoyable experience for me. But it's been a lot more than that, too. This story strikes right at the heart of a subject of great importance to all of us. Our attitude toward the customer. Let's get the reaction of a gentleman who's been watching along with us, Mr. Fred Murray, Cadillac's general sales manager.
Thank you, Bob. What impresses me most about our film is its basic theme.
You mean guardian maintenance?
No, I mean the concept underlying guardian maintenance. You came close to it when you mentioned our attitude toward the customer. I mean owner relations and how we develop it in our dealerships. First in a negative way, then in a positive way. This film dramatizes the tremendous importance of good owner relations to the stability and growth and financial success of the dealer.
That's right. As Mr. Goodman, the dealer in the film, pointed out, if we take care of the customer will take care of us.
Exactly, Bob. What happens to the owner and his car in the service department is the acid test of the program. There's no doubt about it. Good owner relations, which we generate through quality work and other aspects of the Guardian Maintenance Program, are the key to success. Cadillac dealers have been doing a fine job in this area. Our increasing percentage of repeat business and our growing share of the market prove it. But there's still plenty of progress to be made. Our Guardian Maintenance film points the way to more revenue in service, more repeat business in new car sales, and more profit is through better and better owner relations.
I'm Art Carney, and I'm here to tell you about the shows we're putting on this fall to help you sell Delco batteries. Now, these will be live television shows, in color, once a month from October to May. Now, while these TV shows will be in what is known as the spectacular category, we won't be striving for a great artistic triumph. Delco was not interested in art for Art Carney's sake. They want sales. They want to do everything possible to make it easier for you to sell Delco batteries. And the more Delcos you sell, the more you make. Now, to prove my point, I'd like to show you what one man has done with the Delco dry charge battery. Let's make a person-to-person call on Mr. Phil T. Luker. Where'll I get my props? Good evening. I'm Ed Morrow. The name of the program is Person to Person. Tonight, we will be visiting with Mr. Phil T. Luker. We'll be back in just 2 seconds. Here we are, back in just 2 seconds. Mr. Phil T. Luker lives in a small but unusual house just a short way off Route 66. He is often to be found in his study. Good evening, Mr. Luker. Good evening, Mr. Luker. Phil?
Look at service. Oh! Hello there, Ed. Welcome into my domicile. I was just working here on my memoirs. That's French for now that I got it made, I gotta brag about it.
I see. Well, can you give us some of the high spots on your road to wealth? How did you get into the battery business?
Well, Ed, I worked, and I slaved, and I scrimped, and I saved. And, well, the fact of the matter is I made 14 straight passes in the crap game and won it from Sloppy Sam Sullivan. I got the business, but good. This is what it looked like. I got it here someplace. Hold on.
You got the business all right. How did you ever build it up?
Well, Ed, one day a fast-talking Delco man came in to see me. This is what he said. Now, how can you argue against a proposition like that? But I showed him I was a real cagey buyer. This is all the Delco batteries I'd take for my first order.
Well, I'd call that a pretty big order, wouldn't you, Phil?
Well, it might have been, Ed. If the Delco people hadn't sent me over a terrific little helper. This is Freshy right here. Freshy did everything possible to get the Delco story in the public eye. Mine, too.
Tell me, is that your art collection, Phil?
Yes, Ed. It's my art collection. This here is my prize. An El Delco original.
But isn't that an ad from Life magazine?
Yes, Ed. That's an ad from Life magazine. And let me tell you, that ad sold Delco dry charge batteries like crazy. Got a picture over here there of the cars lined up in front of my place a couple of days after that Life ad appeared.
You mean to tell me you got all that business from just one magazine ad?
Oh, no. I got plenty more in my art collection, Ed. They all help sell Delcos. I got one here from the Reader's Digest. Make that out. Ed, all right, just a little better. Reader's Digest. Got one here from the Saturday Evening Post. And one from the ever-popular Irish Echo. I got lots more up in the attic to sell.
Well, that's a mighty fine art collection you have there, Phil. They built up your business, huh?
Yeah? But Phil T. Luca had some ideas, too, Ed. I wanted class in my joint, so I got myself some classy salesmen. Oh, well, do I remember the day this one started with me. She said to me...
How do I look, Mr. Luca? I said, how do I look, Mr. Luca?
I got 4 words to say. Va, 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 boom.
Phil Z.
What?
Do you really think I have what it takes to sell Delco batteries?
I think so. When it comes to original equipment, baby, you have got it.
But shouldn't I learn how to cover the most outstanding points?
Silly girl. But first, you must learn my simplified way of putting the activator fluid in Delco dry charge batteries. Observe. First, I will demonstrate the old-fashioned way. As I said before, that was the old-fashioned way. Now here's my way. Automatic, electronic, and simple. Follow me. You just pull the automatic activator handle and simple. Absolutely foolproof. Memories, memories.
You certainly put some fresh thinking into your business, Phil. Now tell me, do you have a parting word of advice to other dealers?
I'm glad you asked that question, Ed. It shows you're thinking. Yes, I have a parting word of advice to the dealers. A couple of ways. First, load up on Delco dry charge batteries. Second, put a little fun in your life. Know what I mean, Ed?
I dig you, Phil. Good night and good luck. Well, maybe you wouldn't want to be just like Mr. Phil T. Luker, but you get the idea. Now, about the TV show we're doing for Delco this fall. Like the Delco campaign, we're stressing the fresh approach, fresh new ideas, and fresh new talent, combined with the top established stars. At the moment, we're planning 4 one-hour shows and 4 that will be 90 minutes in length. Together with our producer, David Susskind, who is just about the best in the business, we have the rare opportunity to pick our material from hundreds of Warner Brothers and MGM exclusive properties, and from Broadway hit shows, and original stories written especially for us by television's top writers. So it shapes up to a great season. So what do you say we all get together and put this Delco campaign over with a real, how will I say it, ba-ba-ba-boom. Good luck to all of you.
A day with Ford. A day designed to bring the entire Ford dealer organization up to date with the newest developments and newest opportunities in their field. Quite a volume, isn't it? It represents some of the planning, the skull exercise, if you will, which went into a Wilding-produced project in which I recently had the privilege of playing a small part. One of the most important parts of the day's activities included the introduction to the dealer body of the now famous and amazingly successful Ford Mustang. But at the time, the Mustang was top secret, known only by a cryptic T5 identification. As we all know, the automotive industry is accustomed to going all out in presenting new product lines once a year to their dealer organizations. But the Mustang introduction was midway in a model year, spring of the most successful year in car marketing history. Ford decided this was the time, not only for introduction of the Mustang, but also the right time to review with dealers throughout the country the importance of all the various marketing programs and activities maintained by Ford Division to assist in profitable retailing operations. As they have on important projects ever since 1937, Ford called upon Wilding for assistance in making a day with Ford a day of success. And so, work began, writers were assigned, preliminary sketches prepared, planning sessions held and reheld. Composers composed, lyricists lilted, outlines and scripts were approved and production personnel took over. Motif pieces for shows and exhibits were developed and physically produced by a dramaturgy division of Wilding. Incidentally, these modular theme pieces won the 1964 Design Award of the Society of the Plastics Industry. By now, we know our framework. We know our schedule, and it's a tough one. We have 18 separate interest-holding displays to be built for 18 separate operating departments of Ford Division. We have a full-fledged stage musical to cast, rehearse, and produce. We have facility commitments to be made, menus to be planned, films to be shot, logistics to arrange, collateral materials to produce and print, and building, building, building. Midnight oil, extensive overtime, and unceasing effort got the deadline met and the show ready to roll. And now we are on our way. 2 complete units of physical properties required 26 40-foot vans for the national tour. Beginning in New York City, A Day with Ford was presented 12 times in 11 principal cities during the period of only 25 elapsed calendar days. A very real problem of scheduling and logistics. For while our 2 separate truck caravans were rolling, our cast and technical crew were hopscotching locations in their chartered airliner. And each location called for separate setup and teardown. Each location called for thorough technical and musical rehearsals, and the handling of audiences of up to 2,800. To each of these audiences, there was presented the full morning to evening program of A Day with Ford. Beginning with the morning business session for dealers, which featured a state-of-our business message delivered by Mr. Lee Iacocca, General Manager, Ford Division. The actual content of his talk is for Ford dealers only, but...
Gentlemen, we're on a fast track. But we're ready right here this morning in this room to show you we're ready to make our move, and we need your help. Take a look when you got in the merchandising fair. See what other dealers have done. That's the best way for you to learn.
Dealer response and their enthusiasm carried over to the merchandising fair area, where they were exposed to the many and varied Ford Division plans and programs to assist in their business. 18 separate and different exhibits utilized almost every conceivable type of presentation technique and audiovisual medium. Each display booth at each location was manned by Ford Division department heads, meeting dealers, answering questions face-to-face. In fact, dealers across the country were exposed to, discussed business with all top Ford management. As Mr. Iacocca had told them, quote, "These 18 displays cover 18 major parts of our business and say to you, here, take what you need. Don't worry about the guy sitting next to you. You take what you need and leave the rest of them. But all of you need something out there. Take what you need." And take them they did. 250,000 copies of 58 different handout pieces were distributed during the merchandising fair. Pieces designed to help dealers in the all-important task of building profit. Following attendance at the fair, dealers were joined by their wives and conducted to the luncheon area. During the course of the tour, more than 14,000 meals were served smoothly and efficiently. And now for the big event. Introduction of the all-new sensational Mustang by means of a full-fledged 2-hour stage and screen theatrical presentation, utilizing the talents of a top Broadway cast, actors, singers, and dancers. With drama, action, humor, and song, combining to tell a Mustang merchandising story of entertainment and information. A story backed by some of the most sensational film footage ever shot for an automotive introduction show. Certainly no car in history has ever been given a more professional introduction, nor received a more enthusiastic dealer reception. And following the show, once more to the merchandising fair area for an elaborate cocktail and hors d'oeuvre reception, and where the sensational Mustang is on display for close, critical, and enthusiastic inspection. Yes, from early morning, it's been a long, full, and highly successful day with Ford. And now, ready to roll for the next location. 12 full-day performances, coast to coast, in 25 calendar days. And that is the 3-month log of Wilding's efforts to assure a successful day with Ford. The kind of effort that we stand ready to render on a client's behalf in the preparation of a simple single printed piece or a full-blown traveling production.
Thanks a lot, Miss Smith. I hope you have an enjoyable trip. Come back and see us real soon.
If you ask me, Phillips' service is wonderful, and so are the men. Now, that dealer had never seen me before, but when I signed my charge ticket, he remembered my name. He called me Mrs. Smith. Made me feel the most important thing about the transaction was meeting Mrs. Smith, not selling gasoline and oil. Asked me to come back in a way that really made me wish I could. In seconds now, his station will be out of sight, but not out of my mind. Yes, if you ask me, that dealer was on his toes. And you should ask me, because I'm representative of all the women who visited you as a super mystery motorist. And now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to get to my under the paper work. That's right. Under the paper. When I first started out as a super mystery motorist, the paper on the seat beside me was a Bartlesville paper dated March 4th. Now, that paper was replaced hundreds of times as the days and months slipped by, and I traveled in every section of this country where 66 is sold. But always, under the paper, wherever I was, were the reports I filled out immediately of my impressions of the Phillips station and the men who make them the friendly places that they are. Phillips stations are friendly places. I can say that almost without qualification. Time after time, I circled excellent for friendly helpfulness and courtesy. And on the rare occasions when I didn't, it was usually because I circled superior instead. And how did you earn this reputation for excellence from me? Well, let me think back. You got it for those little extras that put the ring of sincerity into your service. Now, for example, in Topeka, Kansas, I asked a dealer how to get to the post office. I was given the directions, clearly and accurately. But what was more important, the dealer offered to mail the letters for me himself, saving me the trip to the post office. I would have given them to him, too, except that, whoops, they were my reports going into Bartlesville.
No, thanks. I'll have to get some stabs.
A close call for me, but indicative of the little extras in courtesy and helpfulness from him that lightened those long hours on the road. And in Pendleton, Oregon, what a wonderful experience I had in that beautiful little city nestled in the mountains. I drove into the station operated by Bob Lockwood, and almost before I could turn off the motor, Bob was there with a big smile and a golden approach. Then I got out to look around and was just amazed to see how attracted Bob and his wife kept their station. They even had window decorations, which Mrs. Lockwood changed every couple of weeks. The lube bay was spotless, and the stalks of oil were so colorfully displayed I couldn't help but comment to Bob. But it was Bob Lockwood's personal effort that topped everything. He not only recommended a motel, but called and made a reservation for me. When I asked the best route to the next town, he did more than tell me. He gave me a map and marked the route for me so I simply couldn't miss. And you know, I heard glowing words of praise for Bob Lockwood all over Pendleton, from the motel operator, and from the people in the restaurant he had directed me to. And if you ask me, it just goes to show that courtesy and friendliness do pay off, because the people of Pendleton were just as enthusiastic about doing business with Bob Lockwood as I had been. When you drive 60,000 miles, and that's about the distance covered in this super mystery motorist safari, you experience countless such examples of the thoughtfulness and goodwill that make the Phillips sign the sign of friendly service. But you also run into situations where some of the things I consider as service are downright overlooked. I'm thinking now of a tire I had that kept going down. Why, I don't know. But I put up with it for ages. Why? I'll bet you're thinking that it was because nobody checked my tires. You're wrong. Plenty of people checked them. You checked that tire, you aired it, and I waited for you to say something about it. You checked it, you aired it. You checked it, and you aired it. A service? Sure. But why didn't you put two and two together and deduce that a tire so much lower than the others must have something wrong with it? Why didn't you offer to inspect it? You know what I finally did? I asked someone to inspect it. And just as I suspected, I needed a new tire. And then I got another rude shock. He didn't have my size on hand. He explained that he had them on order. He was awfully sorry. And so was I. Why, it was enough to send a girl to an auto tire store. They stock the merchandise they're supposed to be selling. But let's get to more pleasant things. And there are plenty of them to report from my travels across the length and breadth of America. I saw hundreds of wonderful sights, not the least of which were your attractive stations. Inviting places, most of them. Whether they were of the latest design or some of the older models, and whether still in the old colors or already in the new, wherever I went, I liked their looks. I can't tell you how many times I decided to visit a station simply because of the good impression I got in the 10-second look. Now, there was a place I wanted to go, and the gas tank said, full. What a nuisance. But I had a way around the nuisance. A touch of a special device fitted onto my car. The whir of a hidden pump. And swish! From a release tube at the back of the car, excess gasoline was harmlessly volatilized out onto the road. So now you know how I could visit stations that were sometimes only a few blocks apart and still answer yes each time you asked me, fill it with flight fuel? If you asked me. And many times you didn't. But more about that later. Right now, we're talking about station appearance. And did I have my woman's critical eye open for that? I always tried to park so I could see into your lube bays. To note if they were clean, considering the weather and work in progress. If equipment and tools seemed to be cared for. And, considering the experience I've already told you about, to see whether you had a good supply of stock. And if it was neatly displayed. I always got inside your stations, too, so that I could observe all the little things that contribute to good appearance. Things like merchandise attractively displayed on the shelves. And in the windows. A desk orderly and businesslike. Clean floors. A clean mirror and fixtures in the restroom. Towels in the cabinet. And a place to dispose of them. There were in all 75 possible points to be earned on appearance and cleanliness. The average score on all the stations visited was 58. I was giving you a tough appraisal. If you asked me where most places were less than perfect, I'd say again, it was in the little things. Things you mean to take care of but don't. Such as an overflowing trash barrel in plain sight. Curbs or islands in need of whitewash. Weeds or grass that have sprung up so fast you don't notice them. A hose left in a snarl. Or shop towels dropped where you used them. All things you mean to do something about. But you see, I was determined to be fair. And I couldn't report on what you meant to do, only on what you did. And I think you'll be fair and accept what I saw as a basis for improvement of station appearance. Of course, your appearance counted too, as well as the appearance of your salesmen. And I wish I could get across to you the difference your grooming made. Many's the time I asked myself, are you just influenced by how good-looking that fellow was in his uniform? You see, there was a place where I was supposed to indicate my overall impression, exclusive of any other thing. And I'll admit that here, like any woman, I fell back on my emotions. The friendlier you were, and the better you looked, the better you came out on my report. Constant driving is a big job, even when one is seeing the magnificent sights across these United States. The man-made splendor of Grand Coulee, the awesome Hoover Dam, the snow-clad pinnacles of the Rockies, the wind-swept reaches of the Great Plains, or the sparkling radiance of sun and sea along the coast. You enjoy the sights. But sitting gets to be a problem. That's why one looks forward to doing something different for a change. And that's where, I'm afraid, you've sometimes disappointed me. I'm going to be in town for a while. What's the main tourist attraction around here? If it's something I ought to see, I certainly don't want to miss it.
Boy, you sure got stuck in the wrong place this time, lady. There's nothing to see in this town. Nothing to do either.
Well, maybe he was right. But I seldom found that a lack of enthusiasm for one's locality was justified. For one thing, I could always find a place to shop. And I would have loved to shop at your place. Sometimes I even tried to trick you into asking me to buy something from you. I put dirt on the floorboard so that you'd have something to sweep out. And since my oil sticker always showed that I was in need of an oil change whether I did or not, I hope that in sweeping out this mess you'd notice my need and suggest a sale. Now, I had a faulty wiper blade, too, and there was no trick to that. It simply wore out. And I swore at it through snows and rains for what seemed like thousands of miles, until it got to the point where I almost wanted to say aloud, if you ask me, I will buy a wiper blade. If you ask me, I will have an oil change. If only you will ask me.
Car sure can get dirty, can't it?
Yes, it can.
And you have no idea what trouble I go to keep it that way. Now, ask me.
Well, I guess that'll be all, won't it?
Yes, I guess that will be all.
Well, you come back and see us.
If you think what you just saw was an uncommon occurrence, I'll have to set the facts straight. It wasn't. I drove literally thousands of miles before anyone ever suggested an oil change or a lube job. And when someone did, well, let's see what else he did. It was in Richmond, Virginia, and I was having trouble with my car. The salesman at Butler 66 not only asked for an oil change and lube job, he also sold me an oil filter, a tune-up, a tire rotation, and a new tire. I was very much impressed with his quiet, knowledgeable salesmanship, and with the dealer, Stuart Butler, who had obviously done such a fine job of training his employees. I'm really sorry I didn't find more like them. I wish that were the common approach, but as I say, it wasn't. However, I did find an uncommon attitude towards selling in another direction. That was in, well, never mind where. It was late one night when I really needed gasoline, and I finally found a station open. I'll never forget the character I met there, or his approach. Would you like to sell me some gasoline?
Nope. Not unless you need it.
That really happened. Although I have to admit it was an extraordinary case. Nobody else in my months on the road ever duplicated that performance. But I think quite unconsciously, some of you have demonstrated a similar attitude. The attitude that if a customer needs something, he will ask for it. And I can tell you that that just isn't true. Well, take, for example, my own experience in Dayton, Ohio. I needed shock absorbers and didn't even know I needed them. Well, goodness, how's the average woman driver like me supposed to know a thing like that? I drove into the Germantown Pike 66, operated by Jim Rutherford. And, well, just watch.
Good afternoon, madam. Shall we fill it with flight fuel?
I got the golden approach in every detail, including...
You should have the oil change, checking the mileage against the sticker. You've driven more than safe in this type of weather. I'd like to lubricate the car while it's here. By the way, our Top Arctic oil has proven to be the best oil on the market. I sure recommend it. Shall I pull the car on the lift?
He asked me. Now, I had been waiting to be asked, but even if I hadn't, it did no harm to ask for my business. However, the story isn't finished yet. In servicing my car, Mr. Rutherford checked the tires and showed me why I had better have a couple of new ones. He asked me to buy them from him. If you ask me, there's a 50-50 chance that I will say, yes, I'll take it. Before I drove away from the Germantown Pike 66, I had bought, now hold on to your hats, 1 oil change, 1 lube job, 2 tires, 2 shock absorbers, and 2 wiper blades. And when I signed my name to that charge ticket, I hadn't bought one thing I didn't need. Now, forgive me for being repetitious, but if you ask me, I may need it. I may buy it. 3 cheers, I say, for Jim Rutherford, and those like him who consider aggressive selling a part of their service to the motoring public. Now, when I praise that brand of salesmanship, let me make it clear that there's a difference between aggressive selling and high pressuring. Now, I don't like to hear high pressuring, but honestly, what I would like to hear, and what every customer would like to hear, is,
May I fill it with flight fuel?
About a quart low, so I bring it up to safe level with new Top Arctic.
This fan belt's in pretty bad shape. Shall I replace it for you?
See the bulbs out here. Have one in stock. Be glad to replace it.
You need to have that oil changed. Can I take care of it for you now?
The sales suggestions can go on and on. All these things are reminders of what we who drive cars want and need to know. And I, for one, don't mind saying yes, if you ask me. And while I think of it, there's more than one way you can ask. You can ask me outright. And you can ask me indirectly with merchandise displays. If I've been thinking about tires, but it has temporarily slipped my mind, a good display of tires is a reminder, a way of asking me, do you need tires? A massive display of motor oil says, have you tried new Top Arctic you've read so much about? We have it right here. A soft drink dispenser asks me to get out, stretch my legs, browse a bit, and see what you have to sell. And what you have to sell is what almost every motorist needs sooner or later. Batteries, antifreeze, tire chains. Only please, please, when you put up a good display, don't let it get dusty and covered with dead bugs, so that it looks like the merchandise has been around so long that it's no longer any good. Now, many of you missed opportunities to ask for business through good displays. Frankly, I missed not being asked, either directly or indirectly. You know, long hours behind the wheel make one look forward to some kind of stimulating activity. And buying and selling can be very stimulating. Now, if I missed it, your other customers may miss it too. And it seems to me that you miss something by not looking for opportunities to sell. Oh my, I haven't finished my last report, and I've got to do it within the few minutes of the time I visited the stations while the impressions are still fresh in my mind, so will you excuse me? Now, let me see. Am I just being influenced by the fact that he asked me for an oil change in a lube job? My name is really Athena Lord. As you know, there was more than one super mystery motorist. To simplify the reporting, I played the part solo, although I was not actually one of those who visited you. But I believe recognition signs are going on among you now when you meet Miss Alice Aiken and Mrs. Ann Smith. Now, these are the women who actually did the exacting work demanded of the super mystery motorist. Alice and Ann, would you do it again if you had the opportunity?
I would. It was a big responsibility, but a rewarding one.
It certainly was. In the beginning, I felt like Lady Bountiful. Who wouldn't, with thousands of dollars to give away to deserving people? I never lost that feeling, but I gained a deeper one, an appreciation for your efforts in making Phillips the great company it is. I'm sure my reaction isn't unusual. You might say I am the voice of the American woman. I won't be a super mystery motorist any longer, but I will be a customer. Just remember, won't you, if you see I need something, and if you ask me to buy it from you, you've probably made yourself a sale.